Alright, so this is week 3 for programming class 3001, CSX3001. This is week 3. So in week 3 they taught you about booleans and or operator and less than, greater than, if statement. They also taught you if else statement and yes, if else statement. Yeah, basically you learn about conditional statement and boolean. So I'll be doing the assignment version of it. I will explain how to do this assignment so that you guys can get a quick review before you do the exam. Alright, let's start. First question. Write a Python code that asks user for 3 integer. So in the last video, if you haven't watched this yet, you can go to the last video, which is week 2. So in there I explain what is like input, what is ask user mean, what is integer mean. So you can go there. I will not be explaining again. This will be quick one. So yeah, so let's, if you haven't watched, you just watch the week 2 before this. So ask the user 3 integers. That means that you need 3 inputs, alright, to ask user like this. Alright, so mainly you want to name your variable. Alright, so let me open week 3 for you guys in here. So week 3. Okay. Yep. So basically you want to ask the user three times, three input, right? 3 input, and you want to name your variable x1, x2, x3. Alright, as they mentioned here, x1, x2, and x3. The program then determines whether x3 is a factor of x1, x2, both x1 or and x2 either. Okay, so basically it means that you want to check if x3, this x3 is the factor of x1 or x2. So let's say that 2 is the factor of 120, right? So what is the factor? Factor means that if you divide and you get the remainder 0. So basically that means that so in Python program you can do something like this. So you can say that 2, so let's say 100 chmod 2. I explained chmod in the previous lesson, so if you haven't watched week 2, you can go and watch that. So I explained what is chmod. So if you do 100 chmod 2, you get 0. So this means that it is factor of 2, because when you divide there's no remainder. So there's no decimal point, there's no remainder. The remainder is 0. So that means that 100 is a factor of 2 because you can divide 100 and you will get the remainder 0. And 20 also is a factor of 2 because you can divide them and you get 0. So x3 is the factor of both x1 and x2. So this means that you need an if statement. So I will explain you what is if statement briefly. So if statement is when you use if statement is when you use conditional statement. So let's say that if the weather is cloudy, then take the umbrella. So something like this. You have an if condition. After that you need to do after the condition. So let's say that if the cloud is dark, bring umbrella. So the if statement will be, if the cloud is dark, then you need to bring your umbrella. If the cloud is not dark, then don't bring the umbrella. So basically it's like giving a suggestion or giving a like a layout to follow, right? If statement. So let's say I'll show you one example. So let's say that so let's say if, so I will ask the input of the user. Okay, so user equal input, enter weather. Okay, alright, so I can enter something like dark, right? So I can do something like if user, so when I enter dark, the user will keep the string called dark, right? So if user equals dark, right, print it's gonna rain. So you see, so that this will print is gonna rain because the user is dark, right? The user is dark, so dark equals dark. This is true, and it will print this thing. But what if I said like, what is I said user weather is clear, and I wrote an if statement that says if user equals dark, then bring it's gonna rain. This will not print anything. You see, it will not print because the user is clear, and clear is not equal to dark, right? So it don't bring anything. So basically it's like conditional statement. All right, so let's go to this question. If you don't understand, you can go rewind or Google how to use if statement. It's very easy, and I will be showing as a assignment problem too, so you will understand more. So don't worry if you don't understand what I explained. So I think you understand more here. So basically the formula is like you want to see that if x3 is the factor of everything, right? So alright, you need to know about and. Okay, so this is a little bit complicated about and. So this is the basic rule of the thumb. Okay, so let's say true and true is true, true and false. If true and false, it is false, right? Because it's like and will take in order to be true, and like if you use and, the both sides should be true. If either side is false, then it will be false. So I will be providing some diagrams in the below, so you can think and of like, okay, this should be 1 and this should be 1, right? And it will be 1. But if this is 2 and 1, it will be 1, right? Because this is false. So basically when you use and, both sides should be the same. So true and true would get true, true and false would get false. All right, that's it, simple. And other way around, if false is starting like this, it's the same thing as this thing. Okay, so now you have or, you have and or. So or is a little bit different. So let's say that true or false, right? When you do true or false, or will always assume that the statement will be true. So that means that if you do true or false, it will be true. If you want the statement to be false, you have to be both sides. So if false or false, then it will be false, because that in order to make a statement false in or, you have to make both sides the same thing as well. But either if it's like different, so if it's like different, so if it's false or true, then it will be true. Okay, I'll be providing some link about diagram. Let's say and or Python. So I'll be providing some diagram here. So I'll be giving this. You can see return true if both statements are true. So if the both statement true and true, it will return true. Okay, for or, it is return true if one statement is true. Okay, so if either one is true, it will be true. So I'll give this link to you guys. You can go watch. You can go read about it. This one, and I'll be providing this. Okay. So now you understand and or, right? So the formula to check this is you want x3 to check with x1 and x2. Next, you want to So first thing is you wanna keep x3 to check x1 and x2. So if it's a factor of x1, if the x3 is a factor of x1 and x2, you print x3 is a factor of both x1 and x2. And sample 2, given that enter x1. Okay, so you can see that x2 is 13. You cannot divide 2 with 13 and get remainder 0, because you will get decimal point, right? So with that being said, 2, you can divide 10 by 2, 100 by 2, so you will get remainder 0. So that means that x3 is the factor of x1 but not x2, because it's 13. All right, So sample 3, x2 is a factor of x2. So 7, you can divide 14 by 7. So 7 times 2 is 14 and the remainder is 0. But you cannot divide 100 by 7. It will get decimal point. So x3 is a factor of x2. Alright. So that means that you have to check both of them. Okay. So what if so 7 you cannot divide 15 by 7, you get decimal point, and you cannot divide 23 by 7. So it will be x3 is neither a factor of x1 nor x2. So it's not factor of anything. So you have to check this one, check x1 and x2 by using if statement. So I said before, if statement is for checking if the weather is cloudy, bring umbrella, so it's checking if the weather is cloudy. So in here you can check by if it's the factor. So let's see. So you ask the user input, okay? So the formula is you want to check, so you want to do chmod. So as I explained, when you do chmod, you will get the get a value remainder, right? So let's say that if 100 chmod 2 is 0, and how about if you want to turn this to boolean, because if statements works with boolean, this would be true and false, because it's and, as I explained, right? True, and this would be and false, right? So the if statement checks like this behind the scene, but you can write code like this also. But equals to 0. So what is equals to 0, right? So that means that, so if you see here 100 chmod 2 is 0, but what if you do 100 chmod 2 is equal to 0? So that means that it will become true, because 100 chmod 2 is 0, right? So 0 is equals to 0. Yes, 0 is equal to 0, obviously. So it's gonna be true, you see. So this statement is when you calculate this, you get 0, and so it will be 0 equals to 0, true. 0 is equal to 0, right? So by that the factor that that some number is a factor. So if you enter something, it will calculate this, and it will, if it's equal to 0, it will become true. If it's not equal to 0, it will become false. So I'll give you one example. If you do 75 chmod 2, right, you get 1, right, because the remainder is 1. But how about if you do equals to 0, you get false, because 75 chmod 2 is 1 equals to 0. No, 1 is not equal to 0, it's false, right? So by that being said, now you can calculate like this. So you put the x3 behind, as I said here, because you want to take the x3, because you want to calculate like this. The one who is dividing should be behind, right? So now it will be like x3 would be here and the number would be here. So you check if it's divisible, you check if the remainder is 0. If the remainder is 0, it will be true. If the remainder is not 0, it will be false. And x2 chmod x3 is 0. So you want to check x2 as well, right? So so I told you n is let me go to the website real quick. N is return true if both statements are true. So if this both statement are true, then you want to print x3 is the factor of both x1 and x2. Because if this factor is true, so this is true, that means that it is divisible and the remainder is 0. So that means that it is a factor, right? Divisible 0 and remainder 0 is a factor. So you want to print this thing. So both are true. So if it's both true, that means that it is a factor of both x1 and x2. All right. So else if is okay. Let me explain else if. So if it's like you check a certain thing, else if is like it's another condition to check inside the if. But you can also do like just if like this, but it's not a good technique, because if you have if here, it will check this and this. It will check like independently, okay? So the code will run like this. It will check this and it will check this, right, independently. But if you have else if, so pay attention to this. This is very important. So if you have else if this statement is true, you don't run this. All right, you don't run else if, you skip them, and you skip else also. All right, so if either one is true, you don't run other things. So let's say that if this statement is true, you don't run this, you don't run this, you don't run this, you don't calculate this anymore. This is ignored, because this is true and it assumes that, okay, x is the factor of x1, done, the program finished, right? And if this is true, and if it's printed, if it prints this, done, that's it. You don't want to check this, you don't want to calculate this, because it's true for both and you don't want to calculate it anymore, right? So you just want to print this. So if you don't understand, you can ask me in comments down below. All right, so else if is checking. So if this statement is false, if it's not the factor of both x1 and x2, then it could be the factor of just x1, or it could be factor of just x2, right? So you can divide like that, you can smart like this and check the remainder. So x1, you check with x1. If it's true, if it's the remainder is 0, you just print x3 is a factor of x1, right? Okay, that makes sense, because the remainder is 0, and if it, so that means that this statement will be true. If this statement will be true, you print this, done. You don't want to calculate this again, because this will be false anyway, because it's the factor of this, right? So next, if you go here, you check x2 again. If it's the remainder is 0, you print x is that factor of x2. And how about if this all statement is false? This is false, this is false, this is false. Then you want to print this. You don't check anything, because you checked everything already, every like possible outcome already. So if all this highlighted code is false, that means that, okay, x3 is not both factor of x1 and x2. Okay, x3 is not of x1. Okay, if it's false, I mean. So x3 is not of x2. Okay, that is false. That means that x3 is neither factor of x1 and x2, right? Because this statement is not true at all. So that means that x3 is not factor of any number. So that then you will print this after that. So else is like you do all the checking. If all the checking is false, then you print else. Then it will print on else, right? So I will run this as a debugger, and yeah, I'll charge my Mac real quick. Alright, so I'll run this as a debugger, and I have explained what is debugger in week 2, so you can go watch there if you don't know how to use debugger. So you want to click here, so you run, so you enter a number. Let's see. So this is wrong. So I want to run this. Okay, so x1, so you want to ask the user. All right, you see here, you want to ask the user. So the sample is 100, you put 100. So and you put and then you run again, you want to ask user again, so it will ask x2 20 and x3 is 2. You click this, you run. Okay, x2. So you can see here that x1 is 100, x2 is 20, x3 is 2, right, as I input here. All right, so now so x1 is 100 smart x3 is 2. So 100 is divisible by 2, yes, the remainder will be 0. Okay, this statement will be true. All right, okay, and how about this x2 is 20 can divide by 2, yes, it can divide by 2, and the remainder will be 0, yes. So as I said, n is return true if both statements are true. So this is true and this is true. That means that this statement will be true and it will run this code. So by that it will say x is a factor of both x1 and x2. Boom, done. See, it doesn't go to this line and check. It just, the program just ends here. All right. Okay. So let's go to sample 2, 100, 13, and 2. All right. So I put the number 100, 13, and 2. So I'm going fast here. So you can just make the speed on the YouTube like around here, somewhere here. You can just click and decrease the speed, okay? So x1 is 100, 100 divisible by x3. So 200 is, so you can divide 100 by 2 and remain 0. Yes, this statement is true. X2 is 13. You cannot divide 13 by 2. And you don't, because you get decimal, right? So this is false. So if this is true and this is false, then the statement will be false, because and says that if both statements are true, then it will return true. But the both statements are not true, then this is false. So it will not run this code. So that means that it will go to else if now, and it checks. Okay, it will go to else if. Okay, so it checks that x1 and x3. So 100 can divisible by 2 and return 0. Yes. All right, this is true. So there's no and or anything. So if it's true, you go to this line. All right, it goes here, print, done, finish. It doesn't calculate this, right? So it's end there. You know, you're seeing the image of else if, right? Why it's like this? So you wanna, okay, let's do sample number 3. So this would be 100. This would be 14 and 7. All right, so 1 is 100, and if it 7 cannot 100 cannot be divisible by 7, and this is false. And let's see x2. This is true because 14 can divisible by 7. So 7 times 2 is 14, and it will if you divide that, you will get 0 as a remainder. But with and, you need both statements to be true, so you will not run this statement is false. So you go to next. It checks x1 is 100. Okay, here 100. x3 is 7. You cannot divide that because you will get decimal point. So you will skip this one. You will not. So this statement is false. You will go to next. This one. Okay. So x2 is 14. x3 is 7. x2 is 14. x3 is 7. But you can do this because it's a multiple of 7. So it will not return you a decimal point, right, if you divide. So this statement is true. So it run this code and it will end there. It will print x is a factor of 2 and done. So with this thing, okay, let's do this one. 23, 15, and 7. Okay. So let's see. X1 is 23. Small x3 is 7. You cannot do that. You'll get decimal point. So this statement is false. And let's see this one. X15, 7. No. 15 and 7. No. You will get decimal point. You skip this. You don't want this. False. Okay. You don't print this. You go to next. Next conditional statement. So this is 23, right? 23 right here, and this is 7. No, you cannot do that because you're gonna divide that. You will get decimal point. You skip. This is 15 and 7. No, you cannot do 15 and 7. You cannot divide that. So it will go to else, and else will not. It doesn't have any checking, right? You'll just print this because there's no conditional statement. In else, you don't need to. You don't have to put conditional statement. You don't have to check like this. Else is just blank. You can just put blank and it will just print this. So if it's not divisible by anything, that means that it's not factor of anyone, right? So it will print x is either factor of x1 nor x2. So it will print this line. So this, I hope this makes sense to you guys. If you don't understand, you can pause the video and look, rewind and resume and look again. So let's go to next one. Okay, this would be assignment number 2. Write the Python code that asks user for 4 integer number. So you have to ask user 4 times, right? Then the code will determine whether the sum of 4 integer number is greater or lesser than equal. Then the code determine whether the sum of 4 integer. So sum of 4 integer. So you have to take all the input of the user, plus it together, add it together, and it's greater than, less than, or equal to 0. So you have to check if it's greater than or less than or equals to 0, right? So let's see. If the sum value is greater than 0, okay, if you add everything and it's greater than 0, check whether the sum is odd or even. So you check if you add all the things, you want to check if it's odd or even number, right? Okay, if it's an even number, then print it's a positive number, right? Positive number. If it's an odd number, you print it's an odd number. If the value is less than 0, check if the number is odd or even. Okay, so you want to check if you add everything and if it's less than 0, you want to check same as this one. If you want to print negative, and you want to print, so if it's less than 0, that means the number is negative, so you want to print negative odd, negative even. If the sum is equal to 0, then print 0 is 0. Okay, alright, so you can see here they ask the user for 4 input and the sum is 22. So if you plus this, 9 plus 6 plus 9 plus 3 plus 4 is 22, and 22 is greater than 0, and it's positive in positive, right? Positive even. Okay, you see here. So if you pass this all, you get sum is 0 and 0 is 0, because you said if the sum is 0, you want to print this. All right, so you got this. So how about if negative? So minus 9 is negative odd. Okay, so with this thing, okay, this is a little bit complicated, but bear with me, you can still do it. So you want to ask user for 4 input, right? 4 input, 4 times, x1, x2, x4, and they said that you want a sum of this number, so you plus all the number, x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus x4, and you want to keep it in some num. So some numbers, right? Some number is some number. So and then when you look at here, they print this, right? This line, right? The sum is 22. So that means that you want to print this. So the sum is this value. So when you add this, you will get some value and you will print this. So you print this line, okay? All right, this is easy. So you want to check if it's positive or even. You want to check even or odd, right? So you can use if statement like this. If sum, so if you add all the thing, if sum is divisible by 2. So if it's divisible by 2 and equals 0, that means that it's even, right? Because every even number is divisible by 2. So if you take 12, it's divisible by 2. If you take 48, it's divisible by 2. The number are even. 12 is even, 48 is even. So if it's divisible by 2 and there's no remainder, so that means that you can divide them like without decimal point. That means that the number is even, right? Okay, but if you get decimal point, that means the number is odd, right? So they said so this statement checks if it's odd or even. Okay, next, some number. So this is the all the value when you add all this thing. So if it's less than 0, okay, so less than 0, so let's assume, let's put some number, right? Let's see, let's use the debugger so you can see the picture. Okay, so first number is 6, right? Second number is 9, then it's 3, and then it's 4. Okay, so it will take 3, 9, 3, 4, right? I mean 6, 9, 3, 4. You will add all this and put its sum num. So it will be, sum num would be 22, okay? So the value in sum num is 22. So you print 22. So the sum is 22. The sum is 22, okay? So this is 22. 22 divisible by 2. Yes. Yes, you can divide 22 by 2 and you will get the remainder 0. Yes. So this statement is true. And sum num 22. 22 is less than 0. Is 22 less than 0? No, right? 22 is greater than 0. So this statement is false. 22 is not less than 0 because the question asks you that check if the sum value is greater than 0, right? So the value is not greater than 0. It's false. 22 is less than 0. It's not less than 0. So this will be false. So and says that both things should be true in order to run this code. So one is false, one is true. That means that this statement is false. So you want to skip this. So it will go to this one. It will go to this one. Next iteration. So that means that it will go here. So sum num equals 0. Sum num is 22. No. And it equals to 0. No, it doesn't equal to 0. So it is. So when you add all this, it will be negative number, negative odd. So if you see here, so I think this should be greater, right? Greater. I think I made a mistake here. Let's see. Let's try this. Let's try this again. 6, 9, 3, 4. Okay. So I was wrong about that. So this should be greater, right? Greater than greater. So this was 22. 22 can divide by 0, right? I divided by 2. So yes. And 22 is greater than 0. Yes, 22 is greater than 0. Because the question says that if the sum is greater than 0, check whether sum is odd or even. So this is greater than 0. Okay, true. 22 is greater than 0. And you want to check if it's odd or even. So if it's even and it is greater than 0, you want to print that the 22 is positive integer, positive even, right? But what if this sum num is 0? If this is 0 equals to 0, it will print this. And what if this whole statement is false? Then you will get negative odd, right? So this is how you do the conditional statement. All right. I'll give you one more demo, one more sample. Okay. 6 -9 minus 6 minus 6 and 9, right? Okay. So when you add this all, you get 0, right? So the sum is 0. It will print the sum is 0. So 0 divided by 2, you cannot divide 0 with any number, right? So this is false instantly. So if this is false instantly, then this statement will be false because and requires true and true to be statement to be true, right? So this is false for sure. So you go next. 0 equals to 0. Yes, 0 is equals to 0. This is true. So you run this code, right? Run. Done. Finish. You don't run else, right? So it's like this. So with programming, you need to know how to do step logically like this. It's a little bit hard, but you require practice. You can do coding bat. I'll provide a link called coding bat. You can practice there. So this is basically checking, right? But you need to know the algorithm how to check like this. But if you're familiar with this, then you know how to check. There's like a lessons here. You can read about it. All right. So let's move to number 3. Write a Python code. Okay, let's see. parking fee for the first 2 hours. Alright, so this one is really complicated. Number 3 is really complicated. It's very hard. Let's see number 4. Alright. Okay, number 4 is much easier. Number 3 is very hard. I don't know if it's worth it to explain you guys this question because the code is a lot and I think it is very complicated for beginners. If I explain to you, I think it should be one by one person by person. If I explain to video, it is very complicated to explain this. And yeah, I would skip this first, and if try to learn other assignment, just skip this first. All right, this is very complicated, and if you've done every assignment, and then you can ask me to make this video separately for this code, because this is like nearly 50 lines of code. Usually it's like 10 lines, 15 lines, but that thing is like 50 lines, so it's very complicated. So I would say that let's move to number 4, and if you finish everything like until week 6, then you can ask me to make this video, okay? Because this will be a long explanation to do this. Alright, so let's move to number 4. Write a Python code that takes 5 integer number as input if the digit is 100 place is greater than sum of other 4 digits, then the 2 digits on the 1 and 10 are swapped. So they ask you that if the digit in 100 place, so 100 place is this one, right? 100 place is this one. So if the 100 place is greater than sum of 4 digits, so sum of 4 digits would be this 1, 2, 3, 4. So you take these 4 digits, plus it together. So 3 plus 2 is 5, 6, 7. So 9 is greater than 7, right? So if 100 place is greater than the sum, so 9 is greater than 7, then the 2 digits in 1 and 10 place are swapped. So 9, so if you add this 2, you get 7, and 9 is greater than 7, then 10 place. So the 10 place is this, right? And the 1000 place, and this one, and which one? And the 10,000 place, sorry. So 10,000 place is this one, and the 10 place is this. So these two things are swapped, you see? So 1 is here, and 3 will be at the front. The 3 will go here, and the 1 will go back. So these are swapped. So the algorithm for this is pretty easy, not that hard. So I'll explain you guys. So in order to do this question, you need to understand while loop. So I explained while loop before, and so let's see. Alright, so you need to you need to go to this number, right? So you need to plus this 2 value and 2 value at the back and the front, right? And you need to leave this in the middle because you want to know, you want to get the sum of these 4 numbers and check it with the middle number, right? So with that said, we can do something like this. This is the code. Let's run with the debugger. Right? So let's enter a 5-digit number. So let's enter this number 11923. Okay. Okay, so you want to make the variable called count equals 0. So why is that? Because you want to count the number, like you want to count how much number do you have in there, right? Because you want to know like the whole like you want to know which position of the number, because you want to get only the 9, right? You don't want to mutate the 9, so you may count as 0. Okay, but bear with me first, you will understand why I did this. Okay, and this one is just reassigning the number because I don't want to reuse variable, so I made a new variable equals to number. So number, so if I run this code, so the cal number would be same as number because it's equals to number, right? So this will count, let's see, this will, okay, it will count that number. Alright, makes sense. So if you can see here, they said that otherwise, so let's read the question. Otherwise the digit in the 10 place and the 1000 place are swapped. So if the sum is, so if it's greater than the sum of 4 digits, 1 and 10,000 are swapped. If it's not greater than 4 digits, then the 10 and 1000 place are swapped. In that case, the sum of other 4 digits are equals to digit 100 place, then the code prints the output. Note that. Okay, so you see here, this is enter 5 digit, but they just enter a 4 digit number, right? So it should print wrong input, try again. So how would you know that this is 4 digit number, right? You have to count them, right? Count like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But how would you do that in a computer, right? It's very hard to do that in a computer. So so you need a while loop to count every digit. All right, so let's do this thing. So let's say that I put 2000, 4 digit. Okay, so count in 0. You want to count, so you want to make the count equal 0 first, because you didn't count yet, right? So you just make the count equal to 0. So if you want to check something, and next time you want to plus count to 1, plus count to 2, so you can keep track of the number of count. Okay, so cal number is 2000, so cal number is equal to number, it's the same. So cal number is 2000 that I just entered here. So 2000, if it's like explanation not equals to, that means that it is not equals to 0. So 2000, it's not equal to 0. Yes, because it's not equal to 0, that is true. So you will go to inside the code, right? So cal divide equals 10. So this means that it is similar to this. So this statement is the same as this statement, right? So if you haven't know what is divide double slash, you can watch week 2 to know about double slash. Okay, so there will be a video that I explain about double slash in week 2. So when you double slash this number to 2000 divided by 10, it is 200, right? And then you get the 200, right? So you plus 1. So when you divide, you plus 1, right? Because now you keep track of the count, because you want to know how many variable, so you plus 1 the count. So now count is 1 because you cut down the 0. So when you cut down the 0, you increment the count to 1, right? So the cal number is 200 now, because we divided already, right? So 200 is not equal to 0. Yes, it's not equal to 0. So you divide again, it will be 20, right? It will be 20. Okay, and then you cut down the 0. So now the count, you plus the count was 1, right? So when you plus the count, it will be 2. So as I said, if you cut the 0, you increment the count. So 20 is not equal to 0. Yes, so you cut down the 0, you divide it by 10 to cut down the 0. So this would be 2, and then you plus 1. So count is 3 now. So 2, so now cal number is 2. 2 is not equal to 0. Yes, it's not equal to 0. So you do the same thing. Alright, you divide. Now it's when you divide 2 by 10, it's 0 now, right? So now you cut down 2, so you increment the count to 4. Now you count the number of digit already by just using while loop. Now the cal number is 0, right? 0 is not equal to 0. No, 0 is equal to 0, right? So this statement is false. So you go to next, right? Okay, so you got the value of the how many digit by using this code. This code counts the value of the how many digit it is there. Okay, count digit. Okay, so now count. You just counted that it was 4, right? 2000 is 4 digit, right? So if count is less than equals to 4, less than equals to 4, yes, it is equals to 4. It's not less than, but it is equals to 4. That means the statement is true. Then you tell that wrong input, type again, right? So you print wrong input, type again, and you exit the program. This is just to exit. You just close the program. So wrong input, try again. You see? So you just made this work by just counting the digit, and if digit is equal to 4 or is less than 4, you say wrong input, try again. Alright, so let's do the sample number 2, this one. So I'll put this number. So this one, so you want to enter now number this, alright? So now count is 0. Okay, you want to count the number, you want to keep track. Okay, I explained this already. Okay, so you divide again, same thing. Now 9 is gone here. You can look at the left side. 9 is gone, you plus 1. Okay, now the 4 will be gone. Okay, plus 2. Then you count, 0 is gone, plus 3, 1 is gone, plus 4, and then 4 is gone, plus 5. Okay, so now the count is 5. 5 is less than equals to 4? No, 5 is not less than or equals to 4, right? So you don't run this thing, right? So you go next. So if you want the 10,000 the number on the 10,000 digit, so let's say that the 10,000 is number 2, right, on the 10,000. So this is 10, this is 1, 10, 100, 1,000 and 10,000, right? But if you want to get the number 2, right, in the place 10,000, you have to divide it by 10,000 to get the thing, right? So you will get 2 because the number was this number, right, you enter. So because the user input is, I just entered 21049, right? So if you divide it by 10,000, you get 2, right? So 10,000 is 2. If you want to get 1,000, you divide by 1,000 and you smart 10. So if you don't understand this, go watch week 2, you will understand this. So if you divide number by 10,000 and then you smart 10, you will get the number 1 in this place. Okay, in the 100 place it's the same. Okay, in the 10 place it's the same. And if you, as I explained, if you do smart 10, you get the last digit. I explained this in the week 2. Okay, so you get all the numbers. You get 2 1 4 5 9, right? 0 9. Okay, you get all the number in separate variables. So you plus all this thing, right? You want to check the sum, right? Because the question asks you to check if the 100 place is greater than the sum of 4 digits. You got all the 4 digits, right? 1 2 3 4, right? But you don't want to plus the 100 because you don't want to mutate the 100, right? Because you want to check the 100 with the other 4 digit you plus. So you plus the 4 digit, you keep them in this variable called sum of 4 numbers, and you want to check. So 100 place was 4. 100 place was 0, right? This one. So 0 is greater than 16. So if you plus all the 4 number, you get 16. It's not greater than 16, right? 0 is not greater than 16. So skip this. 100 equals to so 100 is 0 and 16. 0 equals 16. No, you skip this. So you will go to else automatically. So you will print. You will say that you print this. So you wanna swap, right? So you wanna swap which place? Let's see the things. You swap 1 and the 10,000 place, right? So so you can see that 10,000 10. Okay, you swap the 2 digit 1 and 10,000. So you swap the 10,000 with 1. Okay, So 10,000. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see if I got this correct. Okay, so just now the 10,000 was some number 2, right? So when you swap this, you just replace with another thing. So let me explain this again. So 10,000 is 2 and 10 is, so you swap, which place you swap? Your 9 and, oh, you swap 4 and 1, right? So the 10 place and the 1,000 place, right? So you can see, so I just made it as a string. So you make this as a string, so 10,000, because this was a digit. So you see 10,000, so usually when you count this should be 10,000, right? 1,000, 100, 10 and 1, right? But now you see there's 10,000, 10, because I swapped them, right? 10 and 100 and 1,000. Usually 1,000 should be here, right? Because 10,000, 1,000 and 100 and then 10 and then 1, right? But I swapped them in this place. I put the 10 in here and the 1,000 in here. So I made this as a string, as a string, and keep it as a swap number. And when you print the swap number as a string, so you get this thing. All right. So basically, it's the same thing. It's the same code for this. So if the 100 is less than, so let's say that if it's not greater than this. Let's say that the 100 is greater, right? Let's say that 100 was 9, and the sum, when you plus all the sum, you get 7. So 9 is greater, so 100 is 9, and 9 is greater than 7. Yes. So you swap the place. You swap the so let's see. Otherwise, you swap the 10 to 1,000 place. So 10. So you swap these things. You see, you swap the 10,000 with the 1, because usually when you count is 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. But I swap like this. So 10,000 usually should be at the front, but now I swap with, I made the 10,000 to go back, and then the first unit, the 1, to go at the front, right? So it's the same. But they said that if in the case the sum of the 4 digit is equals to the digit of 100 place, so if the sum of the 4 digit is equals to the 100 place, 100 equals to the sum of 4 digit, you want to print the number. You just want to print the number. So let's see which one. So this, when you plus 5, right? 3 plus 2 is 5, and 5 plus 4 is 9, right? This 4 digit would get 9. So the sum of 4 number would be 9, and the 100 place is 9, right? 9 equals 9. Yes. So you just print the number. You don't want to change, swap anything. So you just print the number. So it's the same thing, you see? And you exit it, right? So basically it's just this code. It's very hard to understand this from this point onward, but I would suggest you to Google this and try to understand as much as you can, or try to ask me some question which part you don't understand, because some part you understand and some part you don't understand, and you can comment down below. I'll be helping you. And after if you understand this, then I will explain the assignment number 3, because that thing is very hard for beginners, this one. So that's it for this video for week number 3, and hope you understand, hope you enjoy. If you don't, you can just comment down below, or I'll be doing week 4 also. So there will be new video about week 4, week 5 and week 6, and I have already made week 2, so you can go watch the week 2 in my YouTube channel. All right, so see ya.